You think financial freedom means having enough money to never work again, right? Well, here's the problem. That entire idea is a trap that's keeping you broke. The FIRE movement promises you can calculate your way to early retirement, live off passive income, and escape the rat race forever. Sounds amazing, except it's built on four massive lies that ignore how money actually works in the real world. Today we're breaking down these myths, the magic number that doesn't exist, early retirement as a fake goal, extreme sacrifice that backfires, and passive income that's anything but passive. Instead, I'll show you what real financial security looks like, control and resilience, not retirement fantasies. It's time to learn how money works. Lie number one, the magic number myth. The FIRE community loves their math. Save 25 times your annual expenses, they say, and you can live off 4% withdrawals forever. Sounds scientific, right? Here's the problem. This rule is complete garbage for most people. Let's break down why this magic number fails. First, it assumes your expenses stay exactly the same for decades, but life doesn't work that way. Healthcare costs explode as you age, your housing needs change. Inflation eats away at your purchasing power year after year. The 25x rule came from a study of stock market returns over specific time periods, but those historical returns don't guarantee future performance. What happens when the market crashes right after you retire? What happens during a decade of low returns? The math that looked so solid suddenly leaves you broke. Here's a real example of how this fails. Say you spend $40,000 per year, so your magic number is $1 million. Sounds reasonable, right? But that $40,000 assumes you're healthy, your house is paid off, and nothing unexpected happens. Add healthcare premiums, prescription costs, home repairs, or helping family members, and suddenly you need $60,000 or $70,000 per year. Now your $1 million isn't enough. You're either going back to work or cutting your lifestyle dramatically. This is exactly what happens when you base your entire financial plan on oversimplified math. The psychological trap is even worse than the math problem. Chasing this arbitrary number becomes an obsession. You sacrifice everything today for a target that might not even be accurate. You skip experiences, damage relationships, and stress about every dollar while chasing a number that ignores reality. But here's what really kills me about the magic number. It treats money like it's static. Your $1 million today won't have the same purchasing power in 20 years. Healthcare costs are rising faster than inflation. Housing costs vary wildly by location and life stage. Technology changes how we spend money in ways we can't predict. The magic number also ignores sequence of returns risk. This is when bad market performance early in retirement destroys your portfolio permanently. You might have the right amount of money, but poor timing wipes you out anyway. The 4% rule doesn't account for this reality. Instead of chasing magic numbers, focus on financial flexibility. Build multiple income streams, develop skills that stay valuable, create buffers for unexpected costs. This approach adapts to changing circumstances instead of hoping your calculations were perfect. Financial flexibility means having options when life changes. Maybe you work part-time instead of full retirement. Maybe you move to a lower-cost area. Maybe you turn a hobby into income. These strategies work regardless of what the stock market does or how inflation affects your expenses. The magic number myth is seductive because it promises certainty in an uncertain world. Calculate this number, save this amount, and you're guaranteed financial freedom. But money doesn't work with guarantees. Markets crash, inflation happens, life changes, and rigid plans break. Real financial security comes from building systems that adapt, not hitting arbitrary targets. Emergency funds that cover real emergencies, not theoretical ones. Skills that generate income in different economic conditions. Relationships and networks that provide opportunities when you need them. This is exactly the same as training for a marathon by only running on treadmills. The controlled environment feels safe and measurable, but it doesn't prepare you for hills, weather, or unexpected obstacles. Financial planning based on magic numbers is treadmill thinking in a real-world economy. The truth is, there is no magic number that guarantees financial freedom. There are only strategies that increase your odds and give you more options when circumstances change. But the numbers aren't even the biggest problem with FIRE thinking. The real issue is what they're telling you to do with your life.
Lie number 2. Early retirement as the ultimate goal. Why have we decided that not working is the definition of success? The FIRE movement has turned early retirement into this ultimate achievement. But here's what nobody talks about. Retiring in your 30s or 40s can destroy your mental health and limit your wealth-building potential. Let's start with the identity crisis that hits early retirees. Your career isn't just a paycheck, it's purpose, social connection, and personal growth. When you retire at 35, you lose all of that overnight. You might have money in the bank, but you also have 40 years of empty time to fill. The research on early retirement and depression is pretty clear. People who retire too early experience higher rates of anxiety, depression, and social isolation. Work gives structure to your days and meaning to your efforts. Without it, many early retirees feel lost and purposeless. But the mental health issues are just the beginning. Early retirement actually limits your wealth-building potential in ways the FIRE community doesn't want to admit. Your highest earning years typically happen in your 40s and 50s. When you retire at 35, you're walking away from decades of peak income potential. This is exactly the same as leaving a concert during the opening act. You paid for the ticket, but you're missing the main event. Your career earnings follow a predictable curve. They start low, peak in middle age, then decline toward traditional retirement. FIRE thinking tells you to exit during the warm-up. Here's what really bothers me about the early retirement obsession. It treats work like it's inherently evil. The goal becomes escaping your job instead of finding meaningful work. This mindset keeps you trapped in careers you hate instead of developing skills and pursuing opportunities you actually enjoy. The privilege assumptions built into early retirement goals are staggering. The FIRE movement assumes you have high-paying jobs, minimal family obligations, and perfect health. It ignores the reality that most people can't save 50% of their income because they're supporting parents, raising kids, or dealing with medical expenses. Early retirement also assumes you can live cheaply forever. But life gets more expensive as you age, not cheaper. Healthcare costs explode. You might want to travel while you're healthy. You might need to help family members financially. The lean budgets that work in your 30s become impossible in your 60s. Let me show you what happens when early retirement thinking limits wealth building. Say you earn $80,000 at age 35 and could potentially earn $120,000 by age 50. If you retire early, you're walking away from significant lifetime earnings. In this example, that's over $3.3 million in potential future income. That's the real opportunity cost of the early retirement dream. Instead of obsessing over early retirement, focus on career flexibility and financial options. Build skills that let you work remotely or part-time. Create multiple income streams so you're not dependent on one employer. Develop expertise that stays valuable regardless of economic conditions. The goal shouldn't be never working again. It should be working on your terms. Maybe that means consulting instead of full-time employment. Maybe it means starting a business around something you're passionate about. Maybe it means taking sabbaticals between projects instead of permanent retirement. Financial stress reduction is a much better goal than early retirement. When you have 6 months of expenses saved, you can handle job loss without panic. When you have marketable skills, you can negotiate better working conditions. When you have multiple income sources, you're not trapped by any single employer. This approach works at any income level, unlike the early retirement fantasy. You don't need to save millions to reduce financial stress. You need emergency funds, valuable skills, and income diversification. These strategies provide security without requiring extreme sacrifice or perfect market timing. The early retirement goal also ignores the value of meaningful work in creating wealth. When you love what you do, you get better at it. When you're better at it, you earn more money. When you earn more money, you build wealth faster than any savings rate can achieve. But here's the biggest problem with early retirement thinking. It makes you focus on the exit instead of the journey. You spend your most energetic, creative years planning your escape instead of building something valuable. You optimize for not working instead of working well. Real financial freedom isn't about retiring early. It's about having options and reducing stress. It's about building systems that give you control over your time and money without requiring you to abandon productive work entirely. The methods you use to get there matter just as much as the goals themselves.